Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for September 12th, 2022. Please join us for Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So move. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes, 7:20 and 8:22.
I move that we approve the minutes for 7/20/22.
I'll second that.
And a second. Discussion. Corrections, additions?
I see a couple
Mary Lee?
just down in the last, next to the last paragraph on the first page. Obligated to obligate the funds have until 12/20/26 to be spend it. How about to spend it and take the B out of there?
Sure.
And
Good.
then one other silly little one. On the second page, down where it starts, Ted Molnar. I think it should be wouldn't on the first, why it wouldn't be put on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Mary Lee, I
I would
didn't catch
agree
it.
with that.
What was that? What page was that?
Third paragraph down on page 2.
Okay, got it.
And
Second
that's,
complete paragraph.
and that's it
That's it?
that I found.
Okay, Dick?
I'm good.
You good?
As am I.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes of July 20th as corrected indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That's approved. Next one.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of August 22, 2022.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And a second? Discussion? Corrections, additions?
I'll abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay. Joe?
I don't have any corrections.
I'm good.
You're good. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Citizens' comments and/or concerns not on the agenda. Anyone on Zoom, Mike?
The only person on Zoom is Zach Hale. Zach, if you have a question, go ahead and unmute. Okay, he's not unmuting, so must be there's no questions.
No questions? No comments? Okay. Move on to sign the, I guess, the corrected Tax Warrant, which we discussed at a previous meeting.
Well, for discussion, I will make a motion that we approve the warrant we've been provided and sign it.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And a second. Discussion. Joe?
Yeah, my concern is that, and this was the same concern I think some of us had last time, the text of the warrant refers to the several persons named in the list herewith committed, and yet there aren't any names on this list. When we discussed this, we talked about alternative language such as, you know, the owners of the parcels in the list herewith committed, and but that's not the way the language is being presented to us tonight, and I don't know whether that means that we have to use this language because of statute, and if we do, I think we should have a list that has persons named on it.
Mike?
On the second page you got, Joe, there's names. Some of these are weird on how they're put on there. But there's, the list that we have, if you look at the second page, it has Abatel.
I'm sorry.
It's just,
We generated the new list. that's
Oh,
over there. It's
excuse
by-
me,
By name.
the back of the second page, I see, you're right. You're right.
So it was run by name, and just how the names on that first page is kind of weird. They're not all by name, but it depends on how they were listed in there for who, like if it's an LLC that's is the name of the property owner, not a person, you're gonna get the LLC name. But the list it's literally 1.75 to 2 inch packet so that's, the statute does say persons.
I see.
And we called both the league and the Secretary of State's office, and they said, yes, it must be by name, by the person's name. And of course, in an LLC, might not be a person, but, so that's why we came back to you with the same kind of
Okay.
language on the first one, but the list that's now, published over at the town office at the window with Christine's office, it's by name.
I see. So the only ones that aren't by name are LLCs.
Well, I looked at the first couple, Joe, because she ran the query by name. Like, yeah, look, if you look at all the ones that are in there, they're all LLCs.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the one that we had the last time we discussed this was by parcel.
there's a parcel number. Yeah.
All right. So I don't have a problem.
Okay, anyone else? We have a motion on this? We did, didn't we?
I made a motion.
Yeah, okay, and a second, all right.
I believe I seconded.
No one else has any questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, we'll pass this around for signatures.
Mr. Chairman, while you're doing that, just to let the board know, upon some discovery with the Secretary of State's office, we found out that we've been doing this wrong for many, many years. So next year, the sequence, you won't see the tax bill that goes out before you guys have signed these, that kind of, so Christine has the schedule of what's supposed to happen, in sequential order. So she's putting in calendar reminders so that next year we do it the way we're supposed to.
Okay,
Just to let you know that.
Thank you. There you go.
Hand that back up to Jim, please.
Yes. Fairly.
next item is errors and omissions certificate, the assessor. We have the information, I believe, in our packets from Mary Jo, suggesting or requesting a change in this particular parcel.
So you need a motion to authorize this change?
Exactly.
Okay, where's the parcel number? Is that the S-PAN number?
She's got it right, there's an attachment in the back that has the parcel ID.
Is that on the Lister card?
Yeah,
Parcel ID, I don't find it.
top
Is that the
left,
33500 number?
correct.
All right, I'll make a motion that we agree and approve with the errors and omissions certificate presented by our lister for parcel number 335000023 and authorize the change and a reduction of value to $250,300.
Second.
Second. It goes from 278, right?
Correct.
278, okay, that was the difference, all righty. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mary Jo thanks you. That's probably just the owner.
Good. Well, she's trying to do her job, so least we can do is help her.
Only one, that's not bad.
No, actually, that's pretty good. We don't see those very often.
you go, Really? More signing.
Doesn't matter where, right?
Under mine, right over on the top there, I guess.
Aiden.
Quiet in here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little warm
Very
too.
quiet.
You can turn the machine on if you want. You better get a jacket.
Yeah.
That's why I come over here. and let
It's
you
not
have it.
that warm in here today. It's
No, it's not.
It's quite,
I feel like I'm warm, I'm hot.
well,
You
a
warm, Mike? I'm warm, Mike.
couple of ceiling fans would be good, right? We use those a lot down south. It does make things more comfortable.
Chairman.
Okay, next item on the agenda, letter to the select board and tax collector regarding tax sale interest calculations from Megan Price of Charlotte, Vermont. We have this in our packet. Mike, do you have anything that you could explain on this?
I only speak about what I guess I've discussed with Christine, so I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, but Megan had, during a tax sale, had the winning bids on a couple of different properties. And her argument is how interest is calculated. So I asked Christine to call the league and to call the Secretary of State's office to get clarification on this, which she did. And she put together her thoughts and what she believes to be accurate in a message to the select board in it. And if you look, she's calculated everything out. So Megan doesn't agree with us. We also contacted our attorney that dealt with this before, the tax sale, which was Lois Baldwin. He did all the research for the tax sale. And so we believe we're on firm ground on how we interpreted the statute, or I guess Christine believes she's on firm ground with how she interpreted the statute as it was backed up by other agencies. But if you look at what Megan Price has put in there, it just disputes, we're disputing what she says, basically, as far as how the interest is accumulated or figured. So I thought maybe she would be here tonight to defend her case of what she had to say, but she's not here. And then one of the, has its, I guess how it's worded, if you look at page number 3, see it's on here. There was some words, it says on demand.
Right.
Right.
And so the on-demand part, because we have a warrant system of payment, she can't say, I come in, I redeem, he paid it, now I want the money. So if he pays it today and she gets notice and she says, I want the money, we don't have a method to pay on demand because of the warrant system that we use. So we've explained it to her, she doesn't agree, so we're kind of at this impasse with, we know what we owe her. She says it's different, then we're calculating it differently. What Christine presented to the board was how she calculated it based on what we found out from the league, from our attorney and the Secretary of State's office. It's all I know about it, to be honest with you.
Questions for Mike, anyone?
No, I spent probably an hour reading this today.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like we're okay.
Well, it's not, in my opinion, it's not crystal clear.
That demand is,
And I guess I don't totally understand the methods or the mechanics of a tax sale and why we owe somebody interest on, and what exactly is the interest calculated on, the value of the property?
On what on what was owed, the outstanding, balance. So if it went up for tax sale and they owed $10,000 in taxes, right, that's what, it's based on.
Oh, that's right, then they have to pay that money, and then we hold it in escrow for a year, or for a period of time.
Year
Okay,
from
now I understand.
Yeah, and then, so they collect that 1% interest over that period of time, but is it on the first of the month is what they're arguing? Was it by calendar period, like if it happened on 20 January is now 20 February, how they calculate it? So that was the argument, and Christine, I believe, spent a lot of time and effort researching this to get the correct answer, and I believe, after her explanation to me, that she's done that.
That was my understanding after reading through this, that she's done her homework and her due diligence. So my opinion is that we don't owe this woman any money more than we've already paid her. And perhaps the opposite is true.
Well, if you.
The opposite is most likely true.
It
Yeah.
said here that it might be.
If we figured it the way Megan was actually talking, as Christine explained to me, she'd owe us money.
Right.
So, but we just want to do what's right. That
Yeah.
was the bottom line, is, following the statutes and to the letter of that law, and that we do it correctly.
It sounds to me like our town staff has put a fair amount of effort into making sure that we've done this correctly.
There's been she's put a lot of hours in on this thing.
And I have faith in their ability, and that also, I would tend to agree with VLCT's interpretation of Vermont statute, as opposed to some other person
Well, the Charlotte treasurer, for example.
But we even had our attorney look into it, so, just make sure our bases were covered. And
Yeah.
to me, it sounds like our bases are covered. If I was,
So what do you need us to do,
I don't really think there's anything that,
other than be aware of it?
Well,
Just to be aware.
just,
Should a letter be written to her or anything?
well, based upon what the board has, the comments here, we'll have a reply saying that the board has discussed it, and
we believe that the treasurer has handled this correctly.
And that we feel that the interpretation by Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns is the appropriate one, or something
And,
like those
and
lines.
and our
perhaps.
town attorney,
Do
yeah.
we need a motion to that effect?
I don't think we need a motion, he just,
Okay,
Mike
I'm
needs
just
to.
asking, that's all.
I don't think so, what do you think, Joe?
I think it would be safest to say that we have, reviewed the input from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns and our town attorney, as well as the research done by Treasurer Christine Vittori, and we conclude that the procedure and the methodology the treasurer used in determining the interest payment, is that the focus?
interest accrual.
Interest accrual was properly done, and we support her approach.
The only thing I would want to clarify on that, Joe, is that she is not the treasurer, she is the secretary to the tax collector.
Thanks.
Treasurer is a different position.
You're right, thank you.
But other than that, I agree with what you said 100%.
So the only question is, do we need a motion? Do we just instruct the manager to indicate to the property owner that the board had discussed it and felt we're on solid ground?
I think that's sufficient, don't you?
Sure.
With that, Mike?
Yeah, I think that's all needs to be said, unless there's more in this one.
We don't need a motion?
Oh, I think you made a motion.
Oh, you made, is that a motion, Joe?
I had provided what might be a motion, which I'll make a motion.
Then I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Liquor license renewal for approval, third-class license, Castleton Pizza Place, and the Deli / Blue Cat. I believe we have that in our packet too. And a comment from the police chief.
Is there outside consumption on this too? I didn't see that.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's here somewhere.
It came in today,
Oh,
Always
okay.
on the
that there were no
email.
problems there.
Yeah.
I guess he had it in his stack of papers somewhere.
Yeah, I got the email from him.
You
saying
did,
it was
okay.
good.
Oh, I didn't see outside consumption on this. Is that not in this application?
I just have one simple application, third-class restaurant
I'll make
bar
a motion, we
license.
approve a third-class liquor license for Castleton Pizza Place and Deli, doing business as Castleton Pizza Place and Deli and Blue Cat.
Is there a second?
I'll second
And a
that.
second. Discussion. Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 There you go again, Marlene.
For the person that I just let in, that had the phone number, last four is 6170. Can you please identify who you are for our minutes?
I think that's Bob, isn't it?
I'm looking right now to see.
Robert Spalding.
Thank you, Robert. Just looking up to see if it was you. Yeah. They just, they're on the liquor licenses right now, Bob.
Okay, I'm just gonna listen to the entire one.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Did you break it?
Tried.
We'll find out.
They'll be here on the 20th to finish this room up, thank God.
Okay. Moving on, library request for ARPA fund disbursement.
I make a motion that we release $100,000 to the Castleton Free Library as previously approved of the ARPA funds at this time.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A second. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 I'll abstain.
You abstain. Okay, Joe. Stormwater mitigation.
Is that what this was about?
Must be, yeah.
This is just for reference from Jonas.
Yeah, because you put in their adoption of the amended town plan. Just reference at this time.
Are we going over it at a later date, or?
Yeah, once it's ready for, probably for the adoption. I think they're just giving you guys a heads up of what's going on. That's how I understand it anyway.
So the planning commission has not finalized their approval of this version.
They met on it, and there's something they're looking at now based upon definitions, I believe, is what they're still working on.
But it'll be coming soon.
Correct.
Yeah, it says in their minutes from their meeting that they still have other things they need to change.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like anything significant. They're almost there when you look at these.
This is a tiny point, but the minutes of their meeting are dated the 23rd, and the draft document says it was approved on the 22nd. I assume that's just a typo.
I will bring it to their attention.
Anything else on this? Seeing none, move on to stormwater mitigation, Little Rutland Road, Kilchevsky property. You're up, Mike.
Great. I'm just checking here where I'm at. Okay, so this is just kind of there's nothing to present to you at this time. the board had made a motion at a previous meeting to get this thing done. And so as we've kind of lumbered along with this, I've met with the Kilchevskys up there twice. I've been up there with the highway foreman, and I was up there as late as this morning myself, taking some photos. What we've done at this point is we've asked, we have not asked, we have a meeting scheduled for the 19th with both A&R, Lakes and Ponds, Streams and Rivers, Josh Cavahall, Rutland Regional Planning Commission, Stephanie Burke, and Pulteney Meadowy Natural Resources Conservation District, Hillary Solomon, to meet up there and discuss. This is like long-term. I mean, hopefully, and it won't probably happen in my lifetime, but that we're going to replace this thing again. This culvert will, some way rot away or something will happen. But we're trying to see if there's any grant money that can help us mitigate this. It's stormwater. We're hopeful that we can get some mitigation money. But as I've shared with the board members as this morning, an email that our text I got from the landowner who expressed their concern of having this done before winter. And it had a proposal for the town to help get through this process. They were willing to pay up to $50,000 to get this done, but they wanted their taxes abated, I guess, for 10 years. And I don't have an updated quote for this project. That's why I gotta get another contractor in there to look at it. But last time they were there, it was gonna be an over $100,000 project. If we get a grant, that's best, because it's not our money or their money. I guess it's all of our money, if you look at it that way. But it's not gonna come out of the town's coffers, and they wouldn't have to spend $50,000 to repair their property that's been damaged by a culvert that the town put in years ago, and it's come to its useful lifespan. There's just a lot of work to be done on that property to get to the point where we can put in a new culvert. And that's why I said, if anybody wants to go up there and look at it, because it's hard to explain that, but I can show you the complexity of it, because of the retaining walls. And there's a cost associated with removing the retaining wall and putting it back up. 2 of them. And the digging of the old culvert is the easy part. That goes down through their property, about 125 feet of it. That truly is the easy part. We'd have to rent a small excavator to get in there because ours is just too big. But that is truly the easy part. It's the encumbrances, or however it wants to be labeled, that the homeowner has on our ability to exercise the easement. So there's an easement through their property for this culvert. It's been burdened by putting those retaining walls in there, and now there's a cost associated with us being able to exercise that right to work within the easement and do any replacement of that infrastructure that's required.
Did we put in the retaining walls?
No.
They put in the retaining walls.
There's 2 of them they put in. One at the lake, which is a stone retaining wall. And then there's one at the road next to their home, which is a timber, like, not railroad ties, but landscaping timbers, like 8x8s. That's what the top retaining wall is. And I think that Mr. Kilchevsky, I don't want to try not to use names, damn it. The homeowner had said at the last meeting that was there. But those timbers are pretty new. I mean, they're not 50 years old or 30 years old. And there's propane tanks that are set at the base of that wall, and the pipe and the tubing runs over to the house, so that has to get removed. And then there's a cesspool at the bottom of that we certainly don't want to do anything that's going to damage their cesspool, because that is their sewage. And so we're going to be working right next to it. And then there's their well is in their little parking area. That's where their well and the piping for their well goes across into the house. So we can't just excavate it and tear up that new culvert, because there's wires and pipes there. So this is just a really, that's why we're at, if this was simple, we would have had it done, 4 years ago. The argument was, and we had an opinion by Lois Baldwin, that by the deed, it says that the town is responsible to replace any damage done to their property because of that culvert that runs through their land. It doesn't say anything about us having to replace a culvert. And so I went back to Lois and talked to her about it, and she said, well, yeah, you're right. The town put it in there, and we have that's our policy, is to maintain what we put in, even though it's not written in there. She agrees that we have a responsibility to replace the culvert. Where it comes into, where she brought it to my attention is, if they burden the easement that we have, then that shouldn't be our problem. That's the difficulty, because if it was as simple as replacing some culvert in the ground, it'd be done already. But it's all the levels of complexity to get to that point. So if there is a grant to do this, I'm not sure if the grant would even consider removing burdens to an easement. That's gonna be a tricky one. FEMA gave us $14,000 from that 2019 storm that hit April of 2019. We were able to show them the damage, and they said, okay, well, we normally don't do anything that's out of the right-of-way, but because the town has an easement and you put it in, we're gonna pay you to replace the culvert. So they gave us 14 grand, which pays for some labor and the culvert. It doesn't give us money to rent equipment, to take down retaining walls, put up retaining walls, and that kind of stuff. And there's trees down at the lake we have to deal with, because there's roots that are, the tree is, I can't put my arms around the tree, so big. But there's roots that are now growing in where that culvert went in, and they don't want the tree taken down, so we don't have to take it down. I talked to Laura DeLugalecki from Lakes and Ponds, and we can leave it standing, but if we did cut it, the stump has to stay there because it's part of bank stabilization. But the Kilchevsky said they don't want it taken away. They'll take their chances with it. The tree dies at some certain point after we dig up the roots. We have to put that into some legal agreement that they'd hold us not responsible should that happen. So there's some legal things. They do have an attorney. He's an attorney here from town. But no one wants to keep spending monies on attorneys, but we're not getting any progress done on fixing the problem. So that's kind of where I'm at with this thing, and after the 19th, I'll have a better understanding if there's any money available for a grant. But that said, if we do get a grant, it could be months down the road that we get awarded a grant. So we're past winter, and we're gonna, I imagine if the Kilchevskys knew that we were serious about setting a date and time to work on this, they may be a little more understanding. But if I don't do anything, you saw what he wrote this morning, and they just want it fixed. And it's just not that simple. And then I did share a lot of things with him, but I said, if I have to go to the select board and say, we're going to have to spend $100,000 to do this, where do I take it from? Where do I recommend that comes from? It's out of the highway budget. And that's a lot of money on the highway budget, because what do you take out? No salt and sand this year for winter, no culvert replacements. It's a little challenging. I haven't got to that point where I have to do it. And I'm hopeful I don't have to, but to appease and work with a property owner here, they want it done before winter, and I just don't see that happening.
It's understanding why they might feel that way, seeing how it's been going down so long.
Right.
Two questions, or a question and a comment. Question, how long has that culvert been there?
We
More or
can't
less.
find the exact records, but we're probably talking, it was
Back in the 70s.
Charlie Perry's era, maybe?
Back in the 70s, probably.
And that retaining wall and the cesspool was probably there, but the retaining wall and the gas lines probably weren't. What about the well?
Yes, I don't have any records on that right now.
In the comment, it's, yeah, 100K is pretty significant. That's what, somewhere around 7 or 8% of the highway budget?
111,000, or no, 1.3 million, I think, is what.
Yeah, so 7%. That's a pretty big bite.
I mean, it's not something we budgeted for, that's the, and I understand their frustration, and I do have a good working relationship with them, so they're not hostile, they're not being uncooperative, they're just looking for some closure to the process.
Well, you left something out, Mike. What about the septic system?
Well, they want to put a septic system in. Years ago, Jim was part of that. They had a local contractor up there who work was halted because they didn't have a town permit. They had a state permit, but not from the town. And it died at that point. But there was a concern that if septic was to leach out of there, get over to that old culvert, it could then make its way to the lake. There was an agreement made about, again, I wasn't here, so I'm talking like I was here, but I wasn't. Jim was, I'm really parroting what Jim knows. That there was an agreement that the town would pay up to a certain point, and then Kilchevsky's would pay from there up, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Again, I wasn't here, and everything I say is hearsay or secondhand. So here I'm at. I've been holding this stick with dog poop at the end for 4 years now, 4.5 years, and I just like to get it off the stick.
Well,
So,
the reason that, what actually instigated this whole thing was that they had a design for a replacement mound system. And it was brought to the attention of the state that there was a culvert there, and the mound system was going to be about 2 feet from the culvert. And as we all know, water will go where it wants to go. And there was reason to believe, certainly, that if the system was put in, you wouldn't have any way to get to do anything about the culvert, because you wouldn't have access to it. At that point, the state stepped in and advised the landowner that if the septic system went in, then the culvert would have to run from the lake up above where the mound system would be. Well, that would take you within 5-10 feet of the retaining wall. And that it had to be a sealed unit so that effluent from the mound system couldn't get into it. And the contractor was quite adamant that he was going to put it in anyway. Well, it didn't work out. So we're still sitting on both those problems. They actually go together. Is it your indication from the owners that they still want to put in the septic system?
they haven't said that to me in a, God, 3.5 years. It was mentioned when I first had the conversation that they had applied for this permit and they wanted to
Yeah.
update their system because it is an old cesspool. And I certainly wouldn't fault somebody for wanting to get away from a cesspool and put in a new system. And they're very, from what I know of them, they're pretty environmentally conscious people, so they wouldn't want stuff going into the lake either. So now it is, if they put a mound system in and it burdens the easement even more where we can't get to it, which I don't know if it will or not, because I don't know where the original design was. But we have to be able to get to it, that's all. That's, whatever we do has to be some legal agreement that says that you can't burden the easement. And if you do, then you're gonna be responsible for the cost to do all this stuff. 'Cause-
Well, it would seem as though the logical thing to do is to replace, however it's done, is to replace the culvert first. Then you've taken care of that part of the construction. And then they, of course, can put in their replacement mound system.
What?
But if you put in the mound system first, you can't get at the culvert. You can't do it. It isn't, given the small lot size and the constraints on it, there isn't any way to do it.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree that, I think that's the goal, is they want us to fix the culvert, and then they may move forward with replacing their septic system with the mounds. My only concern would be, and this has to be put in writing, is that mound system shouldn't burden the easement that we have to be
No.
able to
No.
work on that in the future.
Sure, of course, yeah. Yeah, you've got to have access to it.
And
So where are we, Mike?
the
Other than
19th,
Little Rutland, where are we?
the 19th will give me a little indication, maybe, I don't know if I'll know exactly on the 19th, what's available. I think they're looking at the problem itself and the area that they're dealing with, and they'll probably give me some recommendations. So I don't think I'll have an answer on the 19th. But I do owe the Kilchevsky some answer.
Sure.
And let them know what's going on. But if it's not done before winter, I guess I really want to be able to talk to the Kilchevskys and say, this is where we're at, and this is our plan going forward. And if I can get a contractor in there to give me an updated quote on what it would cost to do that work, because our highway crew is really not equipped to do that kind of work. I mean, the culvert they can do, but tearing apart retaining walls and rebuilding retaining walls, if that's what it takes. Because we did explore a solution other than tear out that retaining wall and see if we can slip line the culvert that goes down through there or use this new material that it hardens with like ultraviolet light, like when you go to your dentist, Problem is that the culvert, we ran a camera through it and the culvert's all rotted. There's really no structural integrity to it, so we'd spray something there, it's just gonna go all over the place. So it really comes down to, it's gonna have to be torn out of there. And it's about a 10-foot drop from the parking area down to the base of that wall. So the culvert goes in under the road, goes underneath the retaining wall, comes out at the base of the retaining wall, and goes all the way to the lake.
Have you explored in any length the idea of going under the wall without having to tear it out?
My quick answer would be no, because that would be major excavation up there. Because,
You need more than ripping out the retaining wall?
well, you know how deep that, you're 10 feet below the road level, and then we gotta go from one side of the road, we gotta go bring it over across the road, and then it still won't be enough elevation, we'll have to pitch it, but I'm not sure if we can get enough pitch
I thought we were already across the road and replaced that part of the culvert.
temporary. We tore up the one that was rotted in the road,
Yeah, and we replaced it.
we replaced it with plastic, and the
Good.
piece that's existing, that's rotted, is metal. There's no
Yep.
way to butt them together.
No.
And so what we did to get by, to make sure the road didn't get washed out, is they put a smaller diameter culvert inside of the larger one, so the water at least flow through and catch some of that water to get it down past the retaining wall. What we found out was, that's really great, but at the base of the retaining wall, that's where the culvert's rotted down there too, so the water doesn't make it through the culvert. It hits that area, and then it starts undermining, and that's what caused the holes on their property. So it's a pretty complex problem. So even the contractors were scratching their head at me going, what are you trying to get us into?
Well, you talked about 2 retaining walls. The one down at the lake, there was never a permit for that either.
Yeah, I can't find a permit for either
The
one.
contractor just put it in.
And the water that's discharged, according to Josh, and it's an intermittent stream that comes down through there is no requirement to treat it, but there's a best practice, is instead of letting it go directly into the lake, is to have it fall short of the lake into like a plunge pool or splash pool at the shorelines. So that's something to consider, but I was talking with the homeowner, and they didn't want to go back farther because they're going to lose part of their property that they use, and so again, just more complexities to the whole thing.
Okay, Mike, any other questions for Mike? Joe?
Well, it seems like getting a more firm estimate of cost is pretty necessary in this situation, if we're going to do anything about it, and certainly if we're going to apply for grants. And I wonder, is it possible to get a contractor to give us kind of a 2-part estimate, one that involves the cost associated with the retaining walls that they have introduced and the other burdens, as you put it. And another estimate, in effect, based on the assumption that they hadn't introduced those burdens. And then, work towards negotiation with the Kilchevskys with the expectation that they should be prepared to pay for the costs associated with the burdens they introduced, and we will pay the rest. That may not be anything the contractor is willing to do, but it seems desirable.
I think I can do that. Matter of fact, it was discussed before with the homeowners about that very thing, and it didn't go very far, but I will certainly get something in writing.
Okay, anything else on this?
A stupid question, is Little Rutland off of Drake Road?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is where I think it is, all right.
And it's a town road, it is a town road.
And they're close to the bend, right? As I
Right.
recall.
And there's a watershed, or a watershed above it.
I think it's a wetland.
Yeah, it's a wetland,
You're
not
gonna-
a,
oh, you're gonna
no,
use it?
I'm not using that
You're
word.
not using that word? Okay.
No, it rhymes with swamp. But, yes, so there's some water, but it's intermittent, the water that comes down through there is intermittent. It doesn't flow down through there unless we get heavy, prolonged rains. But when it comes down through there, it's got some force behind it. And that's why the culvert was there, so the road doesn't get washed out.
Mike, just one other question.
Yep.
How much smaller is the culvert that we put in across the road than the existing culvert?
Pretty much the same size. The larger one, we have the small
You
ones.
said earlier it was, what we put in was smaller. I got that
When we
impression.
put in, the first one we put in was a larger diameter, it kind of matched they don't match exactly, because one's steel
Yeah.
and one's plastic. But because we couldn't butt them together, if the water started going through that big one,
Yeah.
it's gonna hit that,
Do you mean you have to dig up the road again?
oh yeah,
Okay, I got it.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this? If not, we'll move on to the manager's report.
Thank you very much, again, for our ARPA. We are already putting it to good use, which is.
You're welcome.
Okay, you're welcome,
Yes,
Nancy.
Thank you very much.
I don't, ask for your questions first, since, because there's, the only thing that I really wanted to bring to your attention, there's a lot of yellow on some of these pages, was the apparatus, engine 2 for the fire department. That seems to be a lingering thing. We're not gonna get anywhere without two things. One is a vehicle replacement plan from the fire department, so they can present it to the select board, because that has to deal with money and, everything has to do with money, but replacing vehicles is expensive. But they owe the select board that, and to date, they haven't even had a single meeting, so there has been no discussion on that. And when it comes to engine 2, in your packet, there was that Harrob quote, and you can see by that quote that the least expensive fix was $67,051. I spoke to the chief, and it's his belief that the truck isn't worth that, to put that, even that little minute, I'll say a little bit, compared to a new fire truck, that's a little bit, of money into it. The question becomes, what do we do with it? And I did talk to the chief, and he said that we'll make more money parting it out, but I have concerns about that. That it'll be like other things that get torn apart and we have it sitting around for years, and it's, whether it's in the pit, in the fire department, in whatever department. We might be better off just taking our lumps and selling it and getting what we can get for it, and then put the money in the vehicle replacement fund, so that it's there for the new truck. But the chief says basically wouldn't fix it, not not cost effective or not a good use of the money. So I think, I agree with that statement, but I think that we differ with what to do with it, and I just don't want it to become a piece of metal that's got things robbed off it, and it's just still sitting there. Like, I just picture this skeleton sitting there with like 3 tires and, you know, not worth anything.
This isn't being used at all now.
No, it's sitting
It's
on the
dead.
bay, the equipment's still on it, so they'd have to remove the equipment and put it where it might be better used. And they could use that spot for moving another frontline piece of equipment up there, like the tankers back in the back. So they have to back it out of there. If it was put up front, they could just drive out and not have to worry about that. That's not mine. That's up to the chief, I guess, to manage that part of it. But I think that to part this thing out is gonna be really problematic. We could sit on that thing for years before enough parts come off it, before we say, okay, let's let it go now to its elephant graveyard.
That it on that? Who's gonna be first, Joe or Dick?
Dick?
Yeah, okay, Joe.
Well, first off, I do agree with Mike and the chief that the truck is not worth investing even $67,000 in. It's, but I was curious, because I didn't know about the parting out option until I read your report. Is there a significant difference in what he would anticipate in parting it out?
No, he talked to Ed Eaton, who does the work on the pumps and stuff for us, and there is a call for certain, you know, you could sell a pump probably out of that truck and get more money for it than the truck itself. It's like, why does Brown Salvage have a good business down there? It's because you can buy a junk car for $400 and put it in the demo derby, but if you sell the engine out of it, you might get $400 for it just alone. So it's just, but you just don't know the market for it, how long it sits there, that there's a demand for that particular pump. It's in 1998, 97?
97?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, 97.
That being the case, I think I would agree with you that we shouldn't try to sell parts. We should just get it out of the building. Say goodbye.
And somebody who buys it is buying it knowing that the frame has got issues. We'd have to
Yeah.
disclose all that.
So they'd be buying it to the idea of stripping it out and selling parts or scrap value. So it's not worth much.
Okay, that it for you, Dick?
That's all I got for right now.
Joe?
So, what is the point of the first plan here, the, $67,000 plan? What would that hope to achieve?
The goal on that one, or the objective, I guess, would be to put it back in service.
And would it do that?
According to the maintenance shop there, it would put it back in service, and they could use that truck foreseeably for whenever.
What's wrong with that option?
Talking with the chief, his goal to reduce some of the vehicles, he wanted to get rid of that and the ladder. And he's talking about combining them into a quint or a tower, which is it's an engine, has a pump, it can pump water, and it can have the ladder, so they merge a vehicle there, or 2 vehicles into one. And then he's got other ideas, and I don't want to say those because if it doesn't come to fruition, because the truck committee hasn't met yet, so. But that was the goal, and he also made a comment that we don't need a second engine anymore, and it's arguable, but there can be an argument made that he doesn't think we need it, a second engine sitting in here, that we rely on mutual aid. And he'd rather combine these 2 vehicles out there into one, rather than keep an extra engine in there.
What do you mean by engine, Mike?
So an engine or a pumper, so it has firefighting capability as far as it carries a crew, hoses.
Oh, okay.
But it pumps water.
The
so-
fire truck?
Yeah,
fire truck.
well, ladder truck that we have right now doesn't have a pump on it.
Sure, okay.
You have
I
to
got it.
pump into a hose line.
Yeah, okay.
We're talking about some older equipment here, But, so his argument was we don't really need that anymore, and that truck also is it can shuttle water, so it has a dump on the back of it. So you can
I'm
do a
sorry,
quick-
engine two?
Yeah, engine two, has a dump on the back of it, so you can quickly go to a scene and shuttle and dump it into one of our porta ponds, because it's just a faster dump method. Not all trucks have ETAs, so not every engine has that capability to have that dump on the back of it. So there are people that will make an argument that, you know, it can be used to shuttle water, which we need in a rural type setting. Water is always outside of a hydrogen zone is warranted or needed. And the chief now is saying he doesn't believe that's true. And a lot of it's based upon staffing. So some of the thought that goes into it is like, when we show up now for calls, you know, is there enough to even staff 2 trucks as it is? Or is it quicker to call mutual aid and get somebody rolling with another truck while we're waiting for a crew here? So there's different parts of this argument. But the bottom line is, he said, I don't think we need a second engine, and he'd like to be able to combine that engine and the ladder into one, a truck that has the capability of both.
What does he estimate at today's prices that will cost?
Well, he's not talking new. If you're talking new, you're talking $1.5 million.
There you are. Yeah, okay.
So for a quint or a platform. But if you're gonna buy a used one, it's all over the market. And this guy, his name is Jim from Harlem?
Jim Harris.
Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, there
My
you go.
brother.
You remember that one? He taught, I asked him the question, I said, what's your recommendation? And he said, just be careful about buying used equipment. It's out there, a lot of it's out there, and he goes, usually people are getting rid of it for a reason, like we would be. He said, you'd want to bring somebody like me, because not me, I'm not saying me, but somebody like me, that can go out there and look at all the records and look at the pump, maintenance records, the ladder, if that's what they're buying, and everything else about it, hours, and say, looks pretty good deal. Because they do exist, there's more that don't exist than do.
But the good deals that are worth buying would cost what? How much?
For a quint, probably talking upwards of over $250,000. That's probably the low end. For an engine, you might be able to get cheaper, but if you're getting a ladder, you know, you're talking greater than $250,000.
So we basically don't have any recommendation from the, what do we call this committee, Dick?
The truck committee.
The truck committee.
We asked the chief to form that truck committee in when, March or April?
Sounds about right.
And we met with the officers the end of June, or beginning of June, sometime in June. And you and I were both there, Jim. I don't recall exactly what date it was.
Oh, sure.
Can I ask Dick a
Since then-
question?
Sure.
Since then, we have not had a meeting with them.
Great.
And to my knowledge, the truck committee has not met at all.
Dick, the truck that you drove to the farm when we had a fire, is this the truck we're talking about?
No,
No.
no, I drove
I thought you were lugging water to the
I
farm.
drove the tanker during that call. I think I took my personal vehicle to the call, but I don't remember for sure. I know that during the course of that call, after a while, I was fighting the fire, the end of a hose, and then I started driving the tanker truck.
But it's not the one we're talking about?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the things about this truck that's, I don't know, if you want to put pros and cons or negatives, it only carries 2 people. It's an old Freightliner, or not Freightliner, it's an old commercial
It's an international.
chassis, so it has a seat for 2 people, basically. And when you want to go to a call, people count, the truck doesn't do much by itself, so when you're only hauling 2 people, especially if it's a first line attack and your attack trucks. If it's just gonna shuttle water, great.
So it sounds like your recommendation would be not to invest in this, but to sell it and not to part it.
I would say that's accurate based on more than just the cost. I'm looking at how many people it doesn't carry, and the age of the vehicle. But again, if I was sitting on the select board, which I'm not, but I would sit there and say, I'd listen to what the truck committee had to say, and does it make sense? Because if you go back out, try to spend $300,000 or $400,000 on a used truck, and it's a 1990, or it's a 97, it's a 2000, I don't think that's a wise decision either, because we should be trying to move forward in age, because even though we don't follow the National Fire Protection Agency's guidelines, 20 years for an engine, you replace it in 20 years, and you replace ladders in 30 years. Most places, volunteer departments don't do that. You know, we don't want to get into old stuff, because then can we get parts for it, and, you know, it just starts getting into more problems, frames are rotting, et cetera. So, that would be, I think, Joe, I'd say yes. I wouldn't want to put the money into that particular truck, even if it puts it back on the road.
What year is our ladder truck? Do you remember? I think I remember, but I'm not sure.
83?
I was thinking 84.
Yeah, I think it's 84.
Okay, anything else on this?
Just one thing, if the chief wants to replace engine 2 in the ladder with a new truck, where's the plan?
Yeah, I think that's what we're waiting on. Yeah,
So-
but that truck's not gonna go back in service.
What can we do to help him create a plan?
I don't think there's anything besides maybe some pressure to say, where is your plan? Why you're not having meetings yet?
Can we do that?
Anything you want.
No, is this the truck committee? What's the membership on the truck committee?
3 officers, 3 firefighters, and the chief.
This guy doesn't go along with that.
We discussed that at the Public Safety Committee meeting, Jim, and I'm well aware of your thoughts, and you're aware of mine, and you're almost in agreement, but not quite.
Okay. All right, anything else on this?
The other thing, let me start that over. On page,
Could I just,
Sure, Joe.
before we lose this topic entirely, I think that, we've given this a lot of time tonight, and you've put a lot of thought and work into it, and I think we ought to say that we considered the recommendations and the report from Rob on the engine 2, and are unprepared or unwilling to make any decisions until we've seen a report from the truck committee. I think we should send that message back to them.
I agree, I do not disagree with that, Joe.
I think that's appropriate, Joe.
Sure. Okay, anything else on this? You all set, Mike?
No, page 11, at the very bottom was recreation. I don't have anything to drone on about, just wanted to, I gave you what I could find right now on the other salaries. But this has been put back, we went to the university, talked to Katie Colpo, she's pushing it out to 3 different department heads, for 3 programs. And we're gonna see if we'll cast a wide net and see if we get any fish that way, but it's gonna go back out again, on Indeed and locally, see if we can, stimulate any interest in it at all.
Okay.
Did-
Anything else?
Did you
Mike,
ask
or
Katie
Joe,
whether there are any specialized job listing services for people in the recreation field?
The only thing I asked was if there was a way to put this out to people that have graduated,
Mhm.
and that somebody that, we're talking, in my opinion, it's kind of a more of an entry-level type job,
Right.
wage, and that's how I kind of put it in my email was, we're looking maybe somebody that's just graduated from those kind of programs and are looking to maybe move back around the town that their alma mater, and
Yeah.
we accept a lower wage because they're not, have 17 kids and, so. But,
So-
yeah.
Katie and the other program heads are obviously potentially great resources. I would add Renee Dupre White. She's the head of career services, and she may have her own networks of people interested in working in this area.
Okay, I'll reach out to her.
Anything else? Mike, do you?
No,
Wait, well, you want to go first or Dick?
I'm done.
Oh, you're done, okay, Dick.
Well, this is in relation to that. I was gonna bring this up in select board concerns, but, we can discuss it now. The search for a rec director has been going on for quite some time, right?
Yes, it's halted after the last, I ran out of, exhausted my candidates. It's been on hold until about, I'd say 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when I reached out to Katie Popo. So there's been no active search on my end.
So at one point in time, you had some candidates, but you weren't able to actually hire one for, was the main reason money?
Yeah, that's both of them, both the ones that we came, best candidates that we thought we interviewed were both money.
How much more did they want?
Well, I guess it's not so much more as 50,000 was the number that were both of them, 50 to 52, actually.
And we are,
We have budgeted 30, almost just short of 40,000, and the select board had authorized some carryover up to $6,000. The only problem I had with that was, well, first of all, it didn't meet what they were asking, for one, but two, that's not built into next year's budget, because it hasn't been done yet. And if I were to go and use all 6,000 and offer somebody $46,000, would that be approved for the following year? That's where I just get really stuck on it. And to hire someone and then try to make up that difference in the rec budget was not something I was willing to put my neck out for.
Anything else?
maybe it's time to put our neck out for something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think we're gonna attract a lot of interest for what we're offering, what we budgeted for. Had some good conversations with folks, a lot of good energy, but that unfortunately, as one of them said, my enthusiasm doesn't pay the bills, so that's where it come down to.
What about that little girl you were talking about from Florida?
That's my last one. That's the one that my gut feeling on that one, Mary Lee, was she had just the right, like, energy, charisma, personality, and drive that would have taken us to a new level, would have energized, and she really was excited to work with the university and, you know, work with those programs and try to get some internships going and look at programs for all ages. And that was a great, no one else talked about that until I talked to her. She was the last one to. Talked about rec has to be for all ages and all different genres and stuff to make it successful. It can't be just kids' sports. We have to look at what's going to attract the middle-aged and our seniors as well. So that's why I got really excited about listening to her and what she envisioned. She was going to drive up here that weekend and visit the town. She knew more about rec than some of the people that I talked to from rec. By just researching it and looking up stuff. But she ended up pulling the plug before she came up here. She said, as enthused as I am, it won't pay the bills, so I'm not going to come up.
Okay. Anything else?
So we've got some soul searching to do, don't we, as a board?
I just would say maybe it would be worth looking at what do we want out of this thing, and if it's truly something that, like that young lady wanted to do, it's gonna cost us a little bit more money.
How much is a little bit?
10 grand.
So when I look at the information you provided, Mike, there are some that are out of our league. But there are some that are only a little bit out of our league. You know, the Pittsford Town is a full-time position at $47,000. And Waterbury Town similarly is at 48. And even Manchester is not a whole lot more than that. It's probably 50. That gives me hope that we're not that far off.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then there are a handful that are bigger, that are, where the salaries are higher, and there's a whole lot where they're a lot lower. So that tells me there are people out there who want to take these jobs who would love to get a full-time job with benefit.
The people that I interviewed, a lot of it was, these jobs don't come around very often, so usually when somebody gets one, they stay in the job for quite a while. It's just, can we give them the resources to keep them energized and be able to do the things that we're asking them to do? And part of it is their salary, but the other part of it is, putting money into programs and stuff like that. But I guess I gotta get them in here, and the biggest hurdle seems to be making sure we offer them a competitive salary. I'm not saying that's 52,000, but it's probably certainly greater than 40,000 at this point.
What's the total amount that is budgeted for salary and benefits?
The benefits, I think we figured in the two-person plan, which is, I think, 23,000 and 39, almost just a few pennies shy of 40,000 in the salary line. So 63,000 or so.
Okay. Okay, anything else on this?
One more question.
Sure, Mary Lou.
It shows the population of Castleton is 4512. Does that include students in the, this is just?
It went down, it went from
land-
4717, which doesn't count the seasonal population.
Okay, like, so when
Doesn't
we're.
count either seasonal population, the
Yeah.
college
Or
or the
Lake people.
people that come to the
Seasonal
lake for
people,
the
yeah.
summer and don't stay year-round.
So when we're looking at Pittsford and Proctor, they're not as big as we are.
We're the second largest community and we remain the second largest municipality in Rutland County. And I'm not saying this to, I'll put it kind of bluntly, but it's not malicious in any intent. But we have some of the worst infrastructure around, and it's not because we're a bad town, it's not because we have bad people in town, it's just I think we failed to invest in those things that are, what people that are coming to these meetings and saying they want to see in town. So we haven't invested in it, we haven't taken it seriously.
Anything else? If not, moving on to purchase orders. I don't believe the only purchase order we have was on the wastewater plant. So we'll move on to warrants for approval.
Make a motion, we approve warrant number 0912 for $166,449.98. Warrant 0908 for $7,639.16. Warrant 0902 for $10,711.95. Warrant 0831 for $3,561.92. Warrant 0825 for $19,316.70. Warrant 0908P for $19,637.09. Warrant 0901P for $18,173.98. And warrant 0825P for $18,049.61.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have three others here.
I'll make a motion that we approve warrant number 0909P for $654.67. Warrant number 0902P for $654.67. And warrant number 0826P for $654.67.
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Dick recused himself. Okay. Okay, we'll pass those around for signature.
We'll just start for you.
Okay.
How many am I looking for, Jim?
Total, 11.
For those that are on Zoom, they're just signing warrants right now.
Thank you.
There's 10, Joe. There's 10.
Ten?
I gave it to Karen.
Give you one more in a moment.
I changed that to 2. And then shoulder.
Now you have 11.
Thank you.
Okay, select board comments or concerns? Dick?
I'm ready. Okay, no, I'm,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so, we already talked about the rec director, and we need to have further discussion on that, perhaps at the next meeting. So, and I also want to talk to the board about an email that Mike sent out a couple weeks ago that suggested the possibility of a new rec center instead of utilizing the village school. So that's a conversation I think we need to have. I don't know at this point if it's even feasible, but we should at least explore that possibility. So I have discussed this briefly with the town manager, and I was hoping to get the board's consent to move forward with some sort of a feasibility study, or you were talking about some sort of a grant that you could apply for?
Municipal planning grant.
Yeah, so I would like to see if we can at least explore that possibility to start moving forward and to find out if this is feasible, because it's a 3 or 4 year project, and if we wait till next year or the year after to start it, it's still gonna be 3 or 4 years away. So I think that we should initiate the conversation now and see if it's even feasible to consider that possibility, because the village school may be a viable option, but the more I think about it, the more I think we either need to be all in on that or all out on the village school. I think that having that string attached of a 99-year lease for rec may not make that very attractive for sale. So the town may be better off just divesting itself completely of that building and moving in another direction. The question is that even feasible? And that's what we need to explore.
Okay. Anything else? You all set on that?
That's
That's it, Dick?
So can we have the town manager move forward with exploring a municipal planning grant for this project?
Why not?
Yes, I think we should.
It won't cost anything.
Just more gray hair.
Are we in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody
all I
else?
got.
That's it? Mary Lee?
Yes, I agree with them. We should go forward on.
Yeah,
on-
I think we all agreed on that, yeah.
No, I have nothing more.
Nothing else? Joe?
No, I have nothing else either.
Okay, we have one other thing here, traffic sign maintenance policy. Will the note need a new signed copy? No changes in this?
No, I think Dick had a question, when he first signed it, was what constitute a private road when it's to be signed, and I think we answered that one with 3 or more.
Right.
So it's just, it never got signed, fully signed.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind just signing that, then we can get it, we can get the policy put out there so everyone knows what it is.
Okay, we need a motion on that?
You've already approved it.
Approved it?
Yeah, it just, we,
All we have to do is sign it?
yeah.
Okay.
And that prompts me to ask, are all our policies on the web?
They're not, Joe. And I wasn't prepared to pitch this to you yet, because I'm still getting some quotes, but I will come to you soon, as soon as I can get a second quote, about digitizing our records, and we've got stuff that's just kind of, some of our policies are old, I'm not sure, maybe it's time to rejuvenate them, but, as far as what we have, it's not posted, and we can work toward that. But as far as like I had a company come in and take pictures of all the documents that could be scanned, whether it's minutes of meetings and zoning, all our zoning folders. I haven't got the quote back yet.
Thank you, Joe.
I will come to the board with that, and it was on the list of possible ARPA funds, because it's gonna be expensive, but it does benefit everybody, and it benefits the town, because if we lose that stuff in whatever way, whether it's a fire, water damage, whatever it could be, we lose just so much history, and we rely on that history to sometimes go back and look up when that retaining wall was built over that culvert, or those type of things, so yes.
We don't
No, I
know.
don't.
That's an ambitious project, and I would be supportive of it if it was something we could swing financially. But just getting the modern-day, already digitized policies on the web seems like low-hanging fruit to me. And that's something I think we should commit to soon, if not immediately.
I would, well, something we can do immediately, and I will look into that just to see what's out there. I don't off the top of my head know what Karen's put out there under forms and documents on
Right.
our website. So, it's something I made a note to look into it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Speaking
Anything else?
on the website,
Well, go ahead, Mary Lee.
you're
Sure.
not our chairman anymore, did you know that?
I'm not what?
You're not our chairman anymore.
That's okay.
Who's it now?
Nobody,
Well, that's probably
There's
accurate.
only,
nobody.
I didn't look at the one for the select board, but I looked at the one for the Board of Sewer Commissioners, and there's only 3 members listed.
So you know what's happened?
Ciderec's not right.
Well, I
Well, Sid-
hadn't- didn't
Planning
look at that.
Commission's not right.
Karen tried changing the one, somebody brought up that on Sederac that Mary Beth Murphy or somebody was not on there, but it showed somebody else as the chairman. So she went in there and fixed that one, and the way these names are tagged, it's not an easy system. Well, anyway, we'll fix it, because when she changes one, it changes something over here, and you don't even know unless you find it.
Yeah, like I said, Jim's not listed,
Shouldn't
he's
be
listed
interactive
over
like that,
here.
Undercover, Mary Lee.
Oh, is that it?
Undercover.
Okay.
Okay, I made a note to have her
Okay.
look into that.
Anything else on select board concerns?
I'm good for now.
We're good for now. Okay. Any reason for an executive session, Mike?
I don't really have one.
Okay?
You know, the only thing is, I think the board understands what's going on with Sand Hill project.
We do.
Village school, you kind of know what's going on with that.
We do.
So I don't think there's a reason for executive session from my end.
I
Okay?
don't have a reason.
You have a reason? Joe, you have a reason?
I do not.
I do not. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?